All right, let's try this again. Malaga, can you just confirm you can hear me?
Ah, yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you. Apologies about that, everyone. We're just waiting for the screen. There we go. Okay. All right. So as we jump into it, I know you couldn't hear me in the beginning, so I'm going to just go back on camera and show you. Right. So my name is Myron. I am one of the product managers at Caseware. I look after the practice management solution. And joining me today is Mohammed. And Mohammed is also one of our product managers looking after our platform architecture. So that's Caseware Working Paper, SmartSync, some of the stuff that you'll see today. Is right. Okay, so for now, I'm going to turn off the webcam so we don't have any issues with network speed or anything to that effect. And then we can jump straight into it. Perfect. Okay, so in today's session, we will be looking at Caseware Cloud and Caseware SmartSync specifically, and how the two work together, how you would use them in your everyday workflow. So we'll start by looking at the Caseware ecosystem as a whole. Then we'll jump into Caseware Cloud, looking at how you create your clients. We'll look at some of the navigation and collaboration, file management, and then we'll jump into Caseware Working Papers, looking at integrating with Caseware Cloud, the synchronization, how you access your entities or clients and other information through Caseware Working Papers. And then we can have a Q&A sessions. So if there are any questions as we're going through the presentation, please feel free to drop them in the question section, and our team online will be able to answer those. Alternatively, we'll get back to those at the end of the presentation. Okay. Right, so if we look at the Caseware ecosystem, so Caseware Cloud underpins all our technology within our ecosystem, right? And on top of Caseware Cloud, we have our tax solution, secretarial. We've got the assurance products, financial reporting. And this wheel on the right-hand side really gives you an idea of all the different components that form part of the Caseware ecosystem, right? The Caseware Cloud ecosystem. Caseware Cloud also allows the secure management of data in centralized locations, right? So taking care of the encryption, the security, the data store elements, and then by connection, the other applications as well. Okay, let's do that. Just quickly, some of the key features in Caseware Cloud. So one of the big features in Caseware Cloud is around collaboration, both in a firm as well as with your clients. We also help with managing of data and the engagements. And again, we'll look at this in a minute. And then obviously another big element is the security portions, right? Making sure that from a technical standpoint, it's all managed, as well as from a user perspective, that the user permissions and controls are in place. And Caseware Cloud allows you to manage all of that centrally and quite easily. Okay, so with that, I'm going to jump into Caseware Cloud and just give you an overview of what that looks like. Okay, now the first thing I want to point out is in your address at the top, all right, the URL. Your firm's URL will always have something like za.casewarecloud.com, and then it'll be followed by a firm name. Now, this name would relate specifically to your firm. So anytime that you need to log in, just make sure that's the address that you use. So I'm going to just log in here. Right. Okay, so as we log into Caseware Cloud, right, there's a couple of things that you can see right off the bat. So if we just go left to right, so on the left-hand side, you'll see what we refer to as a hamburger menu. And this is really your navigation menu. So if you click there, you'll notice there's a lot of options on here, and we'll get to these in a minute. Then you'll have a mode test. So this is your drop down to select a specific client. And as you select different clients, you'll notice the timeline at the bottom here becomes updated. So it's context specific. So what this timeline tells you is on a specific day, what happened and who created specific activities, right? Then towards the right-hand side, there's 4 options here. Let's move this out of the way. You've got the little plus button, and this allows you to easily create clients and tasks and discussions, and we'll get into these in a minute. So it's just a quick access button where you can click to create whatever you need to. There's a global search option. So in this search option, I can search anything, right? So if I type in Myron, I can see there's an entity called that. There's a couple of people. Then the help file, and this is shows a couple of items here. Number one is the help, which is the full-on help file. If we click on that, so there we go. Right. So this help file is a very extensive list of topics, right? Everything related to Caseware Cloud, how you would use certain of the functionality in Caseware Cloud. So whenever you get stuck, please take a minute to just search your question on there. Another important one is the cloud status. So whenever there are any interruptions in, Caseware Cloud for whatever reason, number one, or whenever we've got any maintenance planned, right, then it'll be up on this page, on the status page. So as an example, here we can see there's a scheduled maintenance for the Asia Pacific region. But currently all the cloud sites globally are operational. For South Africa and the rest of Africa, we would fall under the EU section. So also take a minute to just subscribe to the updates. It helps you to just be prepared if there's any downtime while you're working at 11 at night, to make sure that you can plan accordingly. Okay. I want to just pause there because I see there's a hand up. Okay, sorry. There. All right, then there's also 2 other options here. The one is the welcome. Now, the first time you log into Caseware Cloud, you'll be presented with this welcome screen, right? And it helps you to get started, as it says. So you can customize your settings, create staff, create contacts, add entities. There's tabs at the top, right? So depending on the applications that you've got access to, you can go and you can select your respective application and it'll redirect you to a more dedicated page for that application. There's some tips and FAQs. And then every time there's an update to Caseware Cloud, there will be a what's new section with a new version number and the big items that have changed. Right? So these are just important to keep in mind. Then finally, I want to show you the profile, right? So each one of you, as you log into Caseware Cloud, you will have this selection here of your profile. If you go into your profile, it gives you an overview of a couple of things, right? So firstly, obviously your name, email, the status of your account. So when was it created? When was the last time that you logged in, etc. And then it gives you the permissions that have been applied to you. So if you only have access to a certain number of entities, you would be able to see that. And then it's got the timeline that shows the work that you did or the activities that you've done on specific clients on specific dates. Right? So it gives you that breakdown here. Right. If we jump into my settings, there's a couple of things to note here. So a subscription or subscribed items. This is any time that you want any notification of a change to a client or a file that's been uploaded or new staff members that's been created. You can go and you can select to say, I want to see whenever an activity is created. What then happens is when the activity gets created, Caseware Cloud triggers an email, and you can then see a new activity was created and who it was created for, what client. Right? Keep in mind, these are global notifications, and usually you don't want to enable global notifications because it's going to be a lot. If you go to, apologies, subscribed items, these are items that you've created. So whenever you create a task, you will automatically be subscribed to it so you can see any activity on that task. And then the others are just around your account settings, right? So your password, if you want to reset your password, if you need to integrate with your Google Drive or calendar, your Office 365 sign-in, your startup settings. Now, this is your landing page as soon as you've logged into Caseware Cloud, and you can select what page you want it to land on. Regional settings, you can add your own picture, and then voice over IP if you use that, and then any calendar entries, right? Calendar entries, you can sync with Google Calendar or Office 365 Calendar. Okay. All right, so let's just jump back to the main page. So the first thing I think that we need to look at on the hamburger menu is you've got everyone has these first 5 items, right? Timeline, activities, files, engagements, and entities. So timeline is the one that I'm on now. And, oh, sorry. Okay, so this is the timeline view, and I get to show differently. It's the same information, it just shows differently, right? And I can also switch here between discussions, tasks, file requests. Okay. So if we go tasks, so let's create a new discussion. Yeah, new discussion. I can tag someone in a discussion. So I can say, hi Mohammed, please upload the latest message register. Right, and I can post that discussion. So what that does is it then sends Mohammed a notification to say, hey Mohammed, there's a new discussion that's been created. Please have a look at it. You can also create a task for Mohammed, right? So I can say new Updated TB. Again, I'm going to say hi Mohammed, and let's send this. Let's Sandra. Please upload the latest version of the TB. And it just looks right. And on the discussion, sorry, on the tasks, you could task a client as well, right? So I could say, as a reference, I think I have this, no. So Christian Stein, you'll notice there's a gray icon and then there's a yellow icon. Anytime it's a gray icon, it means it's an internal staff member, and a yellow icon means it's a contact. So it's someone at your client, right? So I can just do an FYI, and I can assign it to specific people to say, who's responsible for ensuring that it gets done. So I'm going to say, this is Mohammed, and I want this done by Friday, and then I can post that. Yes, I want to share that. Okay. Now, I want to take you back to the timeline. Sorry. Okay. Now, what you'll see is on the timeline, we've now got for that client, Myron created a task that says upload TB. And before that, I created a discussion to upload the latest asset register. So that's how it all starts coming together there. From the activities, you'll see tasks, discussions, and file requests, which is the same as what you would see here. Discussions, tasks, there's your file requests. And it all works the same, it all comes together. If I click on my client, I can now see my discussions that have happened, any tasks that have been created, any files that have been uploaded, etc. Okay, so talking about client, let's start with creating our first client. So I'm going to click on the plus button here, and I can scroll down to entity. If I say I want to create an entity, so I'm going to say South Africa, this is a private company. Let's call it hashtag get ahead 2024. Right. So this is where you'll fill in all the detail for your clients. So the addresses, the telephone numbers, any statutory type information that you want to keep record of, and save them. And at the bottom right hand corner, you'll notice it says successfully created get ahead, and you can click there. It'll redirect you to that client. Okay. Now you'll notice it looks quite bare, right? Because we just created them. There's nothing that's been uploaded to that client. I also want to show you I said everyone's got access to this. So here's a menu item called entities. And if you go in there, you'll see a list of all your clients, right? And you can scroll through them. But I wanted to show you there is get ahead as well. And you can access it from here or from any of the other locations that we just touched on. Okay. So also on your menu item is files. Now, files refer to any non-Caseware engagement file, right? So those are your PDF files, your Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, etc. And in the file section, by default, it's got one folder. and ours is named get ahead, which is the same as our client name. So here I can say new, I can upload a file, I can link to a file that's, somewhere else. Or in this case, I'm integrated with Google Drive, so I can upload a file from Google Drive, right? Or create a file that gets stored in my Google Drive. Then I can also go and I can say, well, create subfolders. So I'm going to say this is my order 24, and I want to create another one for my tax 24. Yeah. Okay. Right. So now what I can do is in order 24, I can say, well, I want to upload a file. That's a bit big. So I'm going to upload this. Oh, that's a meeting invite, sorry. I'm going to select a file. And if I browse this file, I select that's an Excel file. The first thing it's going to ask me is, who do you want to be able to see this file, right? And the default is all staff that's got access to this client. And the default is contacts cannot access this item, right? And contacts, like we said, are all the contacts at your client. So you can opt to give them access here, or you can give them access at a later point. And then we say, okay, it's processing. And then it'll tell you the file has now been uploaded. Right? So I want you to notice, if I'm on my get ahead order 2024 versus when I'm in my order 24 or tax 24, right? So the file is uploaded within a specific folder, and your search is then context specific, right? Let's just do that. If you click on that file, it applies a couple of details to that file, right? So just the name of the file, what entity it's on, the size, who created it, etc. And then you'll notice there's also tasks, discussions, file requests listed here. Right? And we can go and say, I'm going to say, please review. I'm going to say, Mohammed, please, could you review the attached feedback? And then I'm going to say, can I have this done by Monday? And I'm actually going to assign this because then I can keep track of Mohammed having to do this. Right? It links to the file automatically, and then we'll post that. Right? So now on this file, I can see there's a task, and I'm going to jump back to the activities and timelines that we spoke about and show you that this task now reflects here as well. Right? Please could you review the attached and provide feedback. So anything that you do in Caseware Cloud comes back and it displays on your timeline. Okay. Let's jump back to our entity, get ahead. Right. So now as you go into the entity, you'll notice the information starts populating, right? So there's the task we created, there's the file we uploaded. If we click on edit, we can edit the, the addresses here, for example. What's 152 work? Let's say and this is Midrand. Okay, as I save that, you'll notice the business address has now been updated and is being displayed here. Okay, so just to recap a couple of things. Number one, your navigation on the left, top left hand, that's how you will access the different areas. Number two, every activity that gets done gets shown on your timeline. And then thirdly, you can get an overview of everything in your client by clicking on the client's name, number one, there, right? And it'll give you the overview. But at the same time, you might want to see more detail, right? So I could say, well, show me the activities for all clients. And then you'll start seeing a lot more information. So a lot of the times it's best to just stick to the client that you actually want to see. It'll make it so much cleaner when you view the data. Okay. I want to scroll down. The other area, these are all applications, right? So the one that you guys will be seeing is also working papers. And we're going to jump into this section in just a little bit. But this, in essence, is where you'll find all your Caseware working paper engagement files. Right? So for now, I want to pause there with a cloud. And I want us to jump into the Caseware working paper section. And we will get back and show you how the files now end up on the cloud. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop my sharing and I will hand it over to Mohammed. And Mo will do the Caseware working papers first.
I will confirm that he can see Caseware on screen. Yeah. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Excellent. So we've got feedback that the sound is working. So thanks, Myron, for taking us through the initial part of Caseware Cloud. I think I want to show you how Caseware Working Papers works hand in hand with Caseware Cloud to enable multiple people to work in the same file at the same time. Obviously, as clerks, you'll work in a team environment, and you'll need to work closely on the same file at the same time with the other people, members in your team. This makes your firm and your team more efficient. So there's a couple of things that you all really need to know about SmartSync. So Caseware Working Papers has a feature called SmartSync, which enables multiple people to work in a file at the same time. And it goes hand in hand with Caseware Cloud. Caseware Cloud enables you to work at the file at the same time. So I'm going to go through the process and show you how that's done. So I think I want to start by making sure that all of you all are on the right version. You'll need to have a SmartSync version of Caseware Working Papers. So when you open up Caseware Working Papers, if you click on the help, you'll get the version number of Working Papers, and it will tell you if it says SmartSync, then you're on a SmartSync version of Working Papers. The next thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you're going to be in a position where you want to create a file. So Sandrine has taken you through the process of creating a file. I'm not going to take you through that process. I've already created a file, but this is the first tab that you'd normally see. We're going to be opening a file that I've already created. So here's it here. What I want you to take note of is under the Places menu, we're not seeing Caseware Cloud. And that's because your version of Caseware Working Papers on your desktop has to be integrated or pointed to your Caseware Cloud instance. So that'll be the first thing that you need to do. So when you open up Caseware and you click on Options, you should navigate to Caseware Cloud and tick the box to integrate with Caseware Cloud. and you will have to type in the first part of the URL of your firm instance that you want to connect, or your cloud instance that you want to connect to. When you click OK, it's going to ask you to log into your cloud instance. So I'm going to log in now. And just like that, our Caseware Working Papers is connected to Caseware, our cloud instance. So we said we're going to open up a file. So I'm going to open up this. I'm going to open up Caseware Working, or the file again. Got it on my PC. Mobile.com. Okay, we just. Okay, so this is something that you might encounter if you don't have the correct permissions when trying to access a file from Caseware Cloud. If this does happen, you can contact your admin to make sure that you do have the right permissions to access the file. So Myron is busy quickly just making sure that we have the right permissions in the file.
Is it on the tool?
Let me just create a new file. Yeah, I'm going to create a new file. Right? Okay, so instead of using that file, we're going to quickly create a new file. I'm going to paste it on SME. So there's two major processes that you often going to encounter. The first is you're going to have to work on a new client file or a new engagement for a new year, and you're going to have to create the file for the first time. So normally there's typically one person in the team that creates the file, uploads it to cloud, and make sure uploads it to the correct entity in Caseware Cloud or the associated entity in Caseware Cloud, and then shares it with the relevant staff members. So that's the initial part of the process. Once the file has been created on the desktop, it is then uploaded into Caseware Working Papers on Caseware Cloud, and then it can be shared with other users. Other users would then create child copies of the file. So I think I want to take a moment just to explain the parent-child relationship. So in order to do that, I'm just going to drag on screen a small slide deck. So basically, how we enable multiple people to work at the file at the same time. Everybody has access to Caseware Cloud, And everybody within Caseware Cloud, you're going to create multiple entities. So you're going to have your entity is basically at your client level. So this will be client 1, client 2, client 3. And within each client, you're going to have various apps. In our instance, we're going to have a Caseware working paper file for every client. And this is the Caseware working paper file that we're actually creating at the moment. This Caseware working paper file, once it's uploaded to Caseware Cloud, everybody that's got access to that entity will be able to create a child copy. So there'll be one file in the Caseware Cloud. You'd be able to have your first user, for example, Myron, he'll be able to create a copy locally on his laptop or PC. I would then be able to create a copy locally on my PC, and I'd be the second user. If we needed 3 or 4 or 5 users, everybody, any number of users would be able to create a copy locally and log into that same file and work within that file. As Myron makes a change, I'd see it in my file, and as I make a change, Myron would see it in his file. That's the premise behind SmartSync. So it's very small, but you'll notice there's an arrow from the working papers file to user 1, and there's an arrow going back from user 1 to the working paper file. So any change that's made by user 1 goes back to the parent copy and then comes to my PC as user 2. And any change that I make as user 2 goes back to the parent copy and then goes down to user 1. So that's the journey that we want to show today. I'm quickly going to go back to the creating of the file. It's asked me to log in, so I've put in my login credentials. Okay. So I think it needs to know SmartSync and the efficiencies that it can provide your organization in terms of how it enables multiple people to work in the file together, just so you all can be as efficient as possible. You all have seen now how to check if you all have the correct version of working papers. It does need to be a SmartSync version of working papers. I've showed you all how to use the options to make sure that you are integrated with the right cloud instance. I've showed you how to log in, and obviously now we've created a file. So once your file is created, this file is not sitting on Caseware Cloud yet. It's only sitting on my local PC. Now, as the clerk, I want other people to work on this PC or on this file with me, so I will publish this file to the cloud. So once the file is created, I'm going to go to the cloud menu and I'm going to say publish. It's going to say that I'm pointed to Caseware Cloud, and I'm going to search for the Get Ahead entity for 2024, and I'm going to say OK. And what I want you to notice is the file is being uploaded to Caseware Cloud. If I go to the Get Ahead entity on Caseware Cloud, I want you to notice that there aren't any engagements or any Caseware working papers files here yet. Once this file has been published or the publish process is completed, we would see that the Caseware working paper file is now part of Caseware Cloud, and then it is ready to be shared with other users that need to work on the file. So I'm just giving it a minute to complete publishing. So publishing is a process that will typically only happen once per year per client. Once the file is up, you'd mostly be creating child copies of the file. So Okay, it's still gathering the changes and pushing it up to Caseware Cloud. Okay, so Caseware Cloud Security has now been enabled on this file. What this means is that it's inheriting the properties of the security that was set on Caseware Cloud for this file. So we're going to say yes. Okay, we're not going to create any queries, set up any queries at this moment in time. But I want you to notice now that the publish button that was in our cloud ribbon has changed to replace server copy. And I want you to notice that while it's still busy in the bottom right corner, it gives you a status of what it's doing, and it still says that it's in a state of publishing. So in the bottom right corner, you'll see it still says publishing. While it's publishing, you can continue working in the file. I think when it's completed, you can see that the file is now online. So publishing has now changed to an online status. That means this file has been completely published to the cloud. So if we navigate to the entity, as part of the cloud ribbon, you don't have to use your browser to access Caseware Cloud. From within working papers, you can navigate directly to Caseware Cloud. And in this instance, I'm navigating to the entity on Caseware Cloud. And I want to show you that the file has now been, the working papers file now has been made part of the entity on the Get Ahead entity on Caseware Cloud. I'm sorry, we're having a bit of a speed delay. So in order not to hold us up, I'm just going to show it to you on the actual browser itself. So previously, when we were on the Get Ahead entity, we saw that we had a file which Myron had created earlier, and this is the file that we created from Working Papers Desktop, and we published it into the cloud. Now, other users are able to create child copies from this file. So that's the process of publishing. That's the process that everybody would need to go through as a once-off exercise per client to see before you can share the file with other users in your team. So now that the data or the files in Caseware Cloud, I want to show you how it can help with efficiency in terms of reading data and populating data from Caseware Cloud into the actual Caseware Working Papers file. So I've gone to engagement properties, and I want you to notice there's a tick box here to automatically sync engagement data with Caseware Cloud. So when that is ticked, for example, it will bring in the operating name that's set in the cloud. So if I go back to the entity on Caseware Cloud, and if I fill in an operating name, so operating name, Get Ahead 2024, and if I save it, when I come back to my engagement properties, it's now read the information from Caseware Cloud, and it automatically populated the engagement properties, or as much as possible within the engagement properties based off what's filled into cloud. So having this ticked is always improves efficiency, because you only have to capture the data once, and then the same data that's in Caseware Cloud will pull through to your Caseware working papers file. So now that this file is at a point where it can be published, or it has been published, and you know that you can make some of the data populate itself from Caseware Cloud using the engagement properties and ticking the tick box to pull the data from Caseware Cloud. What you need to do often is you need to create a child copy. So what that means is, in the picture that I was showing you earlier, we are at a point now where everybody's got access to Caseware Cloud, everybody's got access to the entity, and our Caseware file is sitting on in the entity. Now we're at a point where we have to create a copy for user 1 and user 2. So in order to illustrate the process, I am going to delete the copy that I have locally. So when it's deleting, it'll make sure that any change that I've made goes up to the parent copy. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a child copy. So this is the process that you're going to have to follow most often. Because as you work on a day-to-day basis, at the end of every day, when you finish with the file, you'll delete your child copy. These changes will sync up to the parent, and the next day, or you'd want to work on the file again. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up Caseware. You're going to navigate to Caseware Cloud. Remember, if you're not integrated, if you haven't gone Tools, Options, and tick the box to integrate with Caseware Cloud, you will not see the Caseware Cloud option. And you won't be able to sync a child copy or create a child copy. I'm quickly going to show you how to create that child copy now. So you navigate to Working Papers, you click on Caseware Cloud, and we're just waiting for the search bar to come up. Okay, so we know that the file that we created was in the get ahead entity. And we're going to select the file that says get ahead, and we're going to say open. So what is it actually doing in this process? Remember, on your PC at this moment in time, you don't have a copy of the get ahead file. We've deleted the copy in the previous step. So what it's doing now, I want you to notice there's a progress bar on the Caseware icon. It's basically gone to Caseware Cloud, and it starts to download the latest file that is on Caseware Cloud in the get ahead entity. So after I stopped working yesterday, somebody else opened up the file and made changes to it. When this file downloads, I will get all the changes that were made after I had closed the file. So I'm always going to make sure that I have the latest copy of the file. In much larger files, it can take a bit of time to download and sync. I think the important part here is that you can ensure that, or rest assured that you're always getting the latest file with all the latest changes. So after it downloads the file, if there were any changes that need to be applied to the file, it'll apply it to the file, and you'd be in a position where you'd log in and have all access to the latest engagement file with all your other teammates' changes. So I'm just going to wait for the child copy to be created. Okay, so Myron and I are busy at the moment creating child copies of the file. We're gonna, and the next part of the demonstration is gonna be very similar to how you'll work in real life. We want it to be as real life as possible. And we're gonna both be working in the file together. Myron and I are going to be passing journal entries. We're going to what that means is I might pass journal entry 1, he might pass journal entry 1 as well on his PC, and Caseware Working Papers in SmartSync will automatically make sure that we end up with 2 journal entries, one called journal entry 1, one called journal entry 2, but it might just renumber the entry, but the effect and the debit and the credit and the effect of that entry won't be lost. You'll still have both entries in the file. Then we're going to take you through over and above just journal entries, how things work in the document manager. So Sandrine would have showed you the document manager in the past. We're going to create a new document in the document manager, and we're going to show you how it automatically comes onto our PC. If it's created, for example, if it's created on Myron's PC, how it automatically will show up in the real time in the document manager on my PC or the file that I have. And then we're going to go through other real life examples. So you could be in a position like I am in at this moment in time where we're being load shed and our Wi-Fi connection is not very good. That's why the speed of internet is quite slow at the moment. So that's why this process is taking long. And also what happens from time to time is that, especially in South Africa due to load shedding, you might actually lose Wi-Fi altogether. So you can't be connected to Caseware Cloud and you'd have to be in an offline state. So an online state is where all changes are being synced to the cloud in real time, and everybody gets to see what you're working on as you do it. With an offline state, what it means is that you don't have access to Wi-Fi, you can't connect for whatever reason, so the changes that you're making aren't being applied to other users at the same time. So we're going to show you how, if you end up in that position, what can actually happen. It does create SmartSync conflict, or it can create SmartSync conflict. So we're going to create a SmartSync conflict purposely, and we're going to show you how to resolve that SmartSync conflict. It's a very important part of collaborating together that you'll understand. SmartSync conflicts is a very easy way that we've created to help you resolve issues. For example, if you worked in a document and I worked in the document at the same time, what that means is it's going to ask you, it's going to tell you that 2 people have worked in this document at the same time. Whose change do you actually want to keep? Okay, so we're going to switch to Myron because his file has actually downloaded before mine.
Perfect. We're just waiting for the screen to pop up on your side. Okay. Again, Mo, can you just confirm that you can hear me? All right. If anyone is unable to hear me, you can just pop a message on the chat, but we should be good to go. Okay. So what Mohammed has, explained to us is, I'm going to close this file. All right. So when you open Caseware, you will click on Caseware Cloud. And the first thing you're going to do is search for your client, right? So in this case, my client is called MoTest. And you'll notice as you're typing, it filters your clients, right? Based on what you're typing. So I can see there's MoTest. If I click on it, it will then show me all the engagement files within that client. And in this case, there's only one. It will also show me, also limit the files to whatever I've got access to, right? So even if there were 10 files and I only had access to this one file, that's all that I would see. Then if I click OK, now there's two things that happens here. This being the first, so it checks whether there's already a copy of this file on your local machine. If there is, you can't create a second sync copy, right? Because it tries to make sure we're avoiding any duplications of copies. Right. Then once you click OK, it'll open the local copy that you've already got on your machine. Okay, so there it's retrieving my outstanding sync information. Okay, so now my file is open, and in the bottom right hand corner, you'll notice that it says online, which means it's pretty much ready for me to start working on. Okay. Okay. Now a couple of things, right? So the first time that you create an engagement file, there are engagement properties that pop up. And generally what you would do here is you would fill in the client information and name, and the reporting dates are usually very important, right? But what I want to show you is, firstly, the syncing of engagement properties. So whenever this is ticked on a client, on the Caseware engagement file, it takes whatever information is updated on the client side on Caseware Cloud. So let's jump there. I'm going to go to my clients, and I'm going to find the client MoTest, right, which is the one we're working on. Okay. Now, if I look here, I can see there's the name of the client, MoTest, but there's not much else filled in there. I can see the client number at the bottom, 1234AS, and which is that. Right? So I'm going to say, I'm going to change this. I'm going to say this is a private company. Yes. I'm going to say this is Mohammed BTY. BTY Limited. And I'm going to change that, right? So I'm just updating my client information. And sometimes there's two different roles in the firm that could be doing this, right? You might be working on the engagement file, and someone else might be looking after the client details in the CRM. So as they update it, let's save that. And then if I jump back to Caseware, we are now, that should at some point automatically pull through into the engagement properties of your file, all right? So we can see that name has updated. It's now Mohammed Pty Limited. We can see that the client number has updated, MA001. So that is what this sync engagement properties does. And it's quite an important one to remember. Okay. Okay, so once you've integrated with Caseware Cloud, you've created your engagement file, you've published your file, and your file is now online. The next thing you want to do is you want to create, you want to work with it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Mohammed to download a copy of the same engagement file that I've got. And then we're going to go online and offline and show you how all of that works, right? So the first thing I want to show you is just around the synchronization. So if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, there's a couple of options that you see here. The one being properties, and properties shows you who else has sync copies of this file, and are they online, which means it'll have a green icon, or are they offline, which means they would have a grayed out icon, and it'll give their name and date as well. Secondly, there's the conflicts, and we're going to jump into the conflicts in a couple of minutes. Then connect to a SmartSync copy. This allows you to redirect the link for this file to another copy of the file. So let's say you're out in the field, you're 2 team members out in the field, no one's got access to internet, but each one of you has your own Caseware file. You could use this and you can redirect and link to each other's copies, right, as an interim measure. Okay. And then obviously you have your work offline option. And the work offline, there's a couple of, I think, scenarios to consider here. So the one is, like Mo mentioned, we've got an inherent issue with load shedding. So whenever your internet is disconnected, it'll automatically put the file in an offline state, right? And you will continue working on it. It won't stop you from, continuing your duties. And then once the internet connection is reestablished, it'll go back online. Okay. Then I want to just see if I've got, there we go. Okay. The other thing you'll also notice is the cloud toolbar at the top. Okay. Now, similar to what we had at the bottom here with the properties and conflicts, you'll notice some of the same options here. So there I can work offline. There's the conflicts we just spoke about. Then there's the delete sync copy, which is, it's not deleting the copy in the cloud, don't worry. It's just taking your copy that you've got on your machine and it will delete it. Okay. And then we'll go through accessing cloud. Now, there's something interesting that just happened. As we were talking, this document appeared in my document manager, test Excel doc. And this is a document that Mohammed had just put into the file. So I'm going to delete it and ask Mo to just re-put it into the document manager so we can see how that works. Okay, so deleting that, you'll see it's gone. And if we just give it a second, as soon as Mo puts it back into the document manager, it will now show up on our side as well. And that's the premise of synchronization, right? Whatever work is done in one side will appear on the other copies. So there again, that document just updated. And I can open that document and I can view it and I can make any I can make changes, I'll save it and I'll close it. And then Mohammed on his side would open it up and he could make his own set of amendments. And then we'll see what that looks like. Okay, other than that, while you're in an online state, all your documents and the way you work with Caseware remains the same. Okay, so I'm going to open the document again. Mohammed has, there we go. All right, so Mo has made his changes as well. Same document manager, same engagement file, and the changes have synchronized. Okay, so what I want to do now is let's look at adjusting journals. Right, so there's no journals currently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into an offline state. So imagine my internet is down, offline state, and I say, well, I need to pass this journal. I'm just going to say 200, and I'm going to balance it out with this one. Caveat, there's no accounting logic that I'm applying here, so just bear with me. All right, so I'm going to create that one. Actually, I'm going to create another one, journal 2. Okay, and I'm going to okay, so now I've got 2 journals there. I'm going to close that. Then I'm going to open the cash flow worksheet. Okay, so this is a message I wanna show you. So when you're in an offline state, what this message is saying is Caseware cannot see who else has got copies of this file and whether they are potentially working on the same document, right? So you've got the option to open it and read only, which means you can read what's in there, but you can't make any changes. Or you can open it normally, which means you would be able to make changes in the file. And if someone else was also making changes in the file, there would be a conflict. So let's say open normally. And once that's open, my apologies. Once that's open, I'm going to say and I'm going to just make that one change. I'm going to save it, and yeah, there's nothing else we're going to do in that file. I'm going to save the document. Okay. Now, when I go online, I want to show you what happens, right? So I'm going to go back online. It's going to synchronize. It's going to check for any outstanding changes between my copy of the engagement file and all the other users and their copies. Right, and then this pops up. So this is the synchronization conflict that occurred. And what that means is there were changes being done to the same section of the files at the same time, potentially. And this one says adjusting journal entry 1 was changed to 3, right? And it was created by Mo. So I can say, okay, I'm confirming that change. If I go to my journal entries, let's see. Okay, so that's the first one that I created. That's my journal 2. And then Mo's journal, journal 3, was automatically renumbered to journal 3. So journals get automatically, the conflict gets automatically resolved. Close that. Then if I click here, let's see, show conflicts. Okay, there's another conflict on the cash flow worksheet that I edited. If I double click on that, it shows me there's the current version, which is modified by Mo, and the version that I've got in my file. Right? And now you might ask, but why is Mo's version the current version? The rule is he who saves last saves best. Right? So it goes according to the timestamp. So I saved mine at 20 minutes in, and Mohammed saved his at 21 minutes past 10. So what I can now do is I can view Mohammed's and see if I'm happy with those changes. I'm going to open that one. And this principle applies to any document where you've got a sync conflict, right? It'll show you the different versions, and then you can view the different versions and choose which one you want to save in as the current one in the document manager. Right, so I can go in here, I can see, okay, Mohammed made all these changes. And I can say, okay, well, I actually want to keep that one. Right. So I'm going to select that one. I'm going to say confirm. And now you'll notice it's grayed out. And grayed out just means we've confirmed that we're happy with the version that's set as the current one. But at any point, you can come in here, double click it, and you can see the other versions that were there. Okay. Okay, and then we are going to close that. Okay. Now, if we go to sorry, second. I want Mohammed to just do one more thing for me. Well, if you wouldn't mind taking that document in the document manager and moving it down to the firm template setup section. All right, so you'll notice that document has now moved. And again, this is just to illustrate that any change that gets made in one copy of the file will synchronize to the other copies. That includes sign-offs, documents, any change you make. And in certain instances, it'll happen quicker. In other instances, it might take a couple of seconds to synchronize. And that all depends on what the change is and how big the document is potentially that you are, that the change was made to. Okay. So I want to demonstrate one last exclusive lock. So I'm going to ask Mo to open up the cash flow worksheet again on his side. And then at the same time that Mohammed has got it open, I can then, I'll open it as well. And I want you to note that I'm currently online in my Caseware file. Okay, so I'll just open this one. Okay, so this is the message that will pop up, right? So it says the user Mohammed Asmal on that computer is currently working on the document. And I can open it in read only, or I can opt to not open it. But you cannot edit this while Mohammed is editing it. And there's a couple of documents like this where you may get this message because two people aren't allowed to work in the same one at the same time. Okay, so that's just what it means when you see this message. So I'm going to say yes, read only. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, so we'll notice bottom right, it says no actions permitted. On the top, it says read only. Okay, top right. So there's not much that I would be able to do. So you'll notice I can type, but I will not be able to save it. So even if I save it and I close it, it'll retain my or Mohammed's version because he had it open. Okay. So lastly, I want to show you how you access more of the Caseware Cloud information inside the working purpose engagement file. So from the Cloud tab, we already spoke about, work offline, the conflicts, right? So I can say show versions. There's the cash flow worksheet that we resolved the conflict on. Show conflicts. All of them are grayed out, which means there's no outstanding conflicts. I'm going to get back to delete sync copy, but I want to show you this section here, engagement, entity, and files. These take you into Caseware Cloud. And again, everything is context specific, right? So it looks at the file that you're in, and it will take you to that file or that entity. Right? And then I also want to, I'm clicking on all of these, and you'll notice they open in their own separate tabs at the bottom. Okay. Just make sure our internet is running. Okay, so this opens the exact same browser as you would see in Caseware Cloud, right? So you'll remember me seeing or showing you this earlier. And from here, you can navigate directly. So I'm going to go to working papers. And I'm going to just see what, I can't remember this file name. Oh, yeah. So this is the file that we're currently working in. And this is where it's sitting in Caseware Cloud. Right? So from here, I can go and say, latest TV. Oh, lastest. No, that's not right. And I'm going to say, Mohammed, please upload the latest TV for me. Okay, and I'm going to just set this due date as the 16th. So I'm going to ask Mohammed to just look at that task that I created and upload the trial balance to that task. Okay, and what I want to show you is, number one, on this client file, the task is linked directly to the client file. You would still be able to see it in all the other areas that we spoke about previously, but when you look at the file specifically, you'll also be able to see it there. Okay. Okay, so we can just wait for Mo to get into his task and to upload those documents. This is the other one that I opened, so we can close that. So while we wait for that one, you also have the share option on the menu bar. And again, this takes you into Caseware Cloud. And this allows the file to be shared with other colleagues in the firm. And again, it's important to note that, yes, all these options are there, but they're limited based on the permissions that each person has in the firm. And the permissions is driven by what group you belong to or what explicit permissions were applied to you. Right? And here you could share that file with more individuals. Okay, we're going to cancel that. And I'm just checking in that Mo has uploaded a file. I'm putting Mohammed on the spot here, so let's see. Yeah, there we go. It's uploading it. Okay. Now for the next one, I just went into docking view. Sorry, I should go back there. So the default is you've got tabs in case you're working papers. But then we have what's called a docking view. Docking view allows the windows to be docked inside Caseware side by side. Right? So I want to see, has Mo done anything on this task as yet? I'm going to click on that task and I can see, okay, there's the latest TV. So upload it there. Come on. And I'm going to just view this. Okay. Sorry, I want to view it in files. I want to show you the right way of doing this. says the task. We're gonna say there, and we're gonna say download. Then it's gonna ask you, do you want to say add this document based on this file? And we can say, yes, we want to add. It's going to bring up all this detail, and you can just say, okay. And there it's brought the document into your document manager for you. And there's obviously other ways you can drag and drop it in there, but the idea is that you don't have to switch between different platforms in order to get everything in your engagement file. Okay. All right. I think the last thing I want to just touch on is the delete copy. So also in the cloud menu, the delete copy, like I mentioned earlier, deletes the local copy that you've got on your machine. And there's a couple of reasons why we want to do this. Number one, when you're at the end of the engagement, right, you want to make sure that your copy is deleted from your machine to ensure that there's no changes made after sign off or after finalization that would accidentally sync back to the master file, the parent file. Okay, so it also helps with cleaning up space on your machine and with the security and governance aspect of what happens if the machine is stolen and it's not encrypted, right? It's all of those kinds of scenarios that take into consideration. So it is best practice to delete your sync copy after you're done with it. And also do not delete your file from your Windows Explorer. You always delete it from within Caseware. So I'm going to say delete copy. It's going to ask, do you still want to delete it? I'm going to say yes. Before I click yes, just have to note that if there are any changes outstanding that have not synchronized, it will attempt to synchronize those changes first, and only then will it delete the file, right? So the risk of losing work is eliminated in that step. Okay, so let's say yes, and I'll show you what that process looks like. Perfect, and my file has been deleted. Okay, so I want to jump back into the slides, and I want us to get into some Q&A. See if we can answer some of those burning questions. Okay, so let's just see what questions we've got on the chat here. I'm just opening them up. Okay. Sorry, Mo's just giving me his machine, and then we can run through the questions. So there's a question from Nate that says, is there a place where we can see all tasks or who it is assigned to? Also the status of the task. Okay, so if we jump back into Caseware Cloud and we go to, apologies, activities, I can go and say, okay, I want to see all tasks. And now I can see, the subject of the task, who it's assigned to, the status, when the due date is. And if I click on this, right, I can now see the detail of that task. So this is the latest TV that we created. There's the file, there's the Excel document that's uploaded. You also have a filter bar at the top, right? So I can go and say, well, show me all entities. So there's a lot. Then I go to the filter and I can say, well, show me only stuff that's assigned to me. And then it filters out, and I can see there's clearly something very overdue, yeah? But that's how you would do all the filters. We do have a couple of more other filters available. So you can filter by the status. Oops, just created by, so who created it, certain dates and due dates, right? We do have another application called Caseware Accomplish, but we're not going to get into that today. But this is how you would do that. And the same applies for where there's discussions, right? You'll see the view is slightly different, but you've also got the filter. And the filter is specific based on what view you're looking at. Okay. With the changes pull into sign of AFS, address, etc., seeing that these should not change. No, so when the file is finalized and locked down, right? Actually, let me backtrack. Changes to the addresses and the client information in cloud, that editing permissions are generally limited, right, to certain users in the phone. But if someone does update it, when a file is locked down, then no further changes will be made. Right? Even if someone goes in and does something, it won't be synced back to the master file. It'll technically be read-only. Please show how you got to docking view. Absolutely. And I actually can show you now how. This is, let's see. Oh, sorry, that's my bad. I don't know if I've got a file that would actually work. Sorry, because I delete my files afterwards. Let's go do this. Here's that entity, and that's the file. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's right click. Anton, it's right click on the tab. Okay. I assume best practice for when a clerk is working online, but when connection drops while it gets used for the clerk to advise this opens the AFS. Clinton, yes. So look, there's an element of communication, right, that's involved there. So if someone is working on the financials and their internet goes down, there is an element of letting your audit manager or whoever in the firm know that, look, guys, my internet is down. I've made changes to the financials. It will sync back as soon as I'm back online. Right? So there is that kind of communication that has to be taken into account. Possible to open. Okay, so the other questions seem to have all been answered during the session as I was presenting. So I don't see there's anything else. Yeah, that was the last question from Clinton. Right. Perfect. With that, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us in today's session. And we're going to leave the webinar open for a couple more minutes. So if you want to stay behind and ask another question, drop a comment in the chat, you're more than welcome to do that. And we will we'll keep monitoring it and try and answer you before we close off the webinar. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time, appreciate you joining us, and hopefully this has helped you and will give you a little bit more productivity and efficiency using Caseware Cloud and SmartSync. Have a great day. We'll chat soon.